In the distant African village of Nayumba, the soft rhythm of drums echoed through the evening breeze. The sun was setting, the sky had turned crimson, and the long shadows of trees were writing silent stories upon the earth. In that golden hour, two girls, Zuri and Amani, sat by the riverbank, laughing and weaving dreams together. Zuri was gentle, pure-hearted, and lived for others. Amani was beautiful, but her eyes held a strange glimmer, the kind that sometimes turns desire into obsession. "One day I'll buy gold, Zuri. For me and for you too," Amani said playfully. Zuri smiled. "Gold is lovely, Amani, but peace of heart is worth more." Just then, a caravan entered the village, camels loaded with gold, fabrics, and fragrant oils. A merchant named Kwana approached Amani and said, "There is no dream in your eyes, there is fire. Fire that can change everything." His words pierced deep into Amani's heart. Zuri felt it. Something in the air had shifted. That night, when the world slept, Amani gazed at the sky and whispered, "If only these stars would fall into my lap. Zuri, if only my life could shine like gold." Zuri smiled softly. "Just remember, Amani, not every shine is light." And so, the first scent of greed drifted through the air. Morning sunlight spread over the village of Nayumba. Birds chirped on the trees, children played in the dust, and women filled their clay pots by the river. But inside Amani's heart, there was an unusual silence. The merchant's words from last night, "Fire that can change everything," still echoed in her ears. By the riverbank, Zuri was washing clothes. She looked up with a gentle smile. "What's wrong, Amani? Where has your sparkle gone today?" Amani looked away. "I was just thinking, how long will we keep our hands buried in mud? If only we had gold, Zuri, life could change." Zuri replied softly, "Life changes with faith, Amani, not with gold." Just then, Kwana appeared again, holding a small pouch, glittering coins inside. "Sell these herbs to the village chief for me," he said. "You'll get a small share too." Zuri immediately refused. "We're farmers, not traders." But Amani didn't listen. She took the pouch in her hands, and the shine of the coins reflected in her eyes. That night, under the silver moonlight, Zuri saw Amani hiding the coins. She wanted to say something, but stopped herself. The wind whispered softly through the trees, as if the earth had just heard a secret. And in that moment, the first branch of friendship quietly broke. The next morning in Nayumba, chaos swept through the village. The market buzzed with panic. People shouted, "The merchant's goods are gone. The gold has been stolen." The air was thick with fear. The village chief gathered everyone. Quana raised his voice. Last night I saw Amani and Zuri near the market, perhaps one of them. All eyes turned toward Zuri. She gasped. I didn't do anything. But Amani stood silently beside her. Zuri pleaded, Amani, you know me. I could never steal. Amani lowered her gaze, a storm raging inside her heart. If she spoke, Quana might realize the coins were with her. So she chose silence, her safety over her friend's truth. The chief's voice rang out. Until the truth is found, Zuri will be banished from the village. Zuri's legs trembled. Amidst the crowd, she looked at Amani, tears in her eyes, a trembling smile on her lips. My friend, I still trust you, even if you no longer trust me. The wind began to blow. The trees rustled as though nature itself had fallen silent. In Amani's clenched fist, the stolen coins glistened, damp with sweat and guilt. And for the first time, the air of Nayumba echoed not with love, but with accusation. It was night. Clouds drifted across the sky as if even God himself was sorrowful. Zuri sat outside her hut, tears streaming down her face, yet not a sound escaped her lips. Around her was only silence, the kind that screams inside a broken heart. There was a knock on the door. It was Amani. Zuri, she whispered. Zuri interrupted softly. Don't say anything, Amani. The truth doesn't need words. Amani's hands trembled. She still hid the golden coins. Zuri's eyes caught sight of them, but she said nothing. Only a bitter smile touched her lips. Zuri picked up a small bundle, just a shawl, and a wooden bowl inside. I'm leaving. Perhaps this village was never mine. Amani took a hesitant step forward, then stopped. Zuri said quietly, Remember this. Gold may shine, but only faith brings light to the eyes. Then she turned away, disappearing into the darkness. The wind rose, the lamp went out, and somewhere far away, the sound of drums faded into silence. By morning, Zuri's hut stood empty. Carved into the wooden door were the words, Truth takes time, but it always returns. Amani read the message, and for the first time, fear filled her eyes. For the truth had gone, but it had promised to return. Months passed. The soil of Nayumba was now far behind Amani's footsteps. She had reached the city, a place where even the nights glittered and the days wore false smiles. Tall buildings, noisy markets, and women adorned with golden jewelry. Amani felt as if she had stepped into a dream. There she met Quana once again. He was now a wealthy merchant. Smiling slyly, he said, I told you once, Amani, fire changes everything. Look at you now, you've changed." Amani replied truthfully, though her heart felt hollow. "Yes, I've changed, but I think I left something behind." Kwana slipped a golden bracelet onto her wrist. "Forget the past, Amani. Wealth heals all wounds." Amani laughed, but her laughter was empty, echoing in the hollow of her soul. That night, standing before the mirror, she stared at her reflection. Her face glowed, but her eyes were dim. She whispered softly, "Zuri, you were right. Gold doesn't bring light." Outside, a storm began to rise. Lightning tore across the sky, and the window of Amani's room slammed shut, as if fate itself had declared, "Now, the darkness will stay with you." Spring had returned to the land of Nayumba. The air carried the scent of soil, and birds sang songs of renewal. Along the same path from which Zuri had once left, she now returned, but she was no longer the same Zuri. Her hands were empty, yet her heart was full. After months of struggle, Zuri had built a small organization in another village, the Umid Foundation. She taught orphan children, treated the sick, and trained women in crafts and self-reliance. When the villagers saw her return, they were astonished. No gold, no jewels, yet her face glowed with a light so pure it seemed even the sun sought her permission to rise. The village chief asked, "Zuri, how did you achieve all this?" Zuri smiled gently and replied, "The day a person lets go of greed, nature begins to walk beside them." Far away in the city, Amani heard the news. "Zuri has returned." For a moment, she froze. The golden bracelet on her wrist jingled softly, as if it too whispered Zuri's name. That night, Amani looked up at the sky. The moon was the same, yet its light felt sharper now. Perhaps because Zuri's light had returned to the earth once more. The city market buzzed with unrest that day. Kwana's merchants had struck new gold deals, yet their faces were pale with worry. Rumors spread like wildfire. Bandits were attacking caravans on the trade routes. Amani laughed dismissively. "Bandits? Wealth always walks hand in hand with danger, Kwana." Kwana's tone turned cold. "You use my name now, Amani. If there's a loss, the burden will fall on you." Her smile faded. The color drained from her face. That night, as the market closed, a group of masked men stormed into the city. Their leader shouted, "We don't want gold. We want the woman who spreads it." They meant Amani. Panic swept the streets, but Amani's feet felt frozen to the ground. Kwana had vanished. She was nothing more than a pawn to him now. As the masked men closed in, a voice thundered through the chaos. "Leave her." It was Zuri, standing tall among a group of villagers from Nayumba. She wore simple white clothes, held a wooden staff, but her eyes blazed like fire. Her voice echoed through the air like a storm tearing open the sky. The masked men stopped, staring at her, fear flickering across their faces. Amani stood in shock. The very woman she had betrayed was now the one shielding her from harm. The night wind howled, carrying fear through the city's narrow streets. Amani was surrounded by masked men. Their swords gleamed brighter than the moonlight. Zuri stepped forward. "Let her go. The gold you want, I will return it myself." The leader laughed mockingly. "And who are you to stand in our way?" Zuri's voice was calm, steady. "The one who once lived in darkness, but has now become the light." The men attacked. Chaos erupted, screams, dust, and the clash of steel filled the air. Zuri pushed Amani back, shielding her. A sword slashed across her shoulder. Blood flowed, but she did not stop. Quana was nowhere to be seen. He had fled, clutching his wealth. Zuri collapsed to the ground, yet her eyes shone with peace. Amani caught her, crying out, "Zuri, I betrayed you, and still you came back? Why?" Zuri's voice was faint, trembling but serene. "Because friendship, Amani, is a debt no gold can ever repay." Amani wept as the rain poured down her face, and on Zuri's lips bloomed a final smile, as if her soul whispered, "I have kept my promise." The rhythm of the drums fell silent. Only one name echoed through the wind, Zuri. The morning sun rose over the skies of Nayumba. The breeze was gentle, yet Amani's heart felt unbearably heavy. She sat silently before Zuri's grave, flowers in her hands, tears in her eyes. "Zuri, you gave your life for me, and I sold our friendship for gold." The wind seemed to answer her. The leaves on the trees trembled softly. Villagers stood quietly behind her. They all knew now. Zuri had sacrificed her life to save the very one who betrayed her. Quana's name had become a curse. He had fled the city, his wealth stolen, and people whispered, "This is how greed ends." Amani left behind the gold, the cloves, and every trace of the city. She joined Zuri's foundation, teaching children and helping the poor. Each day, she whispered to herself, "I will live in Zuri's name and fulfill her dreams." One day, a little girl asked her, "Mother Amani, where does light come from?" Amani smiled gently and replied, "When the heart is pure, light finds its own way." Sunlight spilled over Zuri's grave. The flowers swayed softly, as if whispering, "Zuri is not gone, she has simply become the light." Months passed, and the village of Nayumba was no longer the same. Where once shadows of envy and fear lingered, now the laughter of children filled the air. Women wove cloth beneath the trees, men sang as they worked the fields, and at the heart of it all stood Amani, turning Zuri's dreams into reality. She had transformed the old hut into a school. On its wall were the words, "Zuri Foundation, light for those in darkness." Every morning, she told the children a story. There were once two friends. One sought gold, the other faith. And in the end, It was faith that triumphed. The children clapped. Some hid their tears, but their hearts filled with warmth and light. One day, the village chief asked Amani, "You changed the whole village, but how did you heal yourself?" Amani smiled and looked toward the sky. "I made Zuri a promise that I would never let the darkness return." Just then, a butterfly landed gently on her hand, white, soft, and glowing. Amani closed her eyes and whispered, "Zuri, you're in the wind now, aren't you?" The breeze brushed through her hair tenderly. The sun rose fully above the horizon, and on the soil of Nayumba, life kept its promise of a new dawn. Years passed, and Nayumba had become a symbol of hope. People traveled from distant villages to see the Zuri Foundation, a place where knowledge, love, and hope breathed together. Amani had grown old now, but her eyes still shimmered with peace. Every morning she sat by the school gate, calling out the children's names, as if Zuri were still among them. One evening, she sat beneath Zuri's tree, the very tree where the two had once vowed eternal friendship. The air was gentle, the sky bathed in gold, and Amani whispered softly, "Zuri, I've fulfilled your dream. My heart is finally at peace." A white butterfly fluttered down and rested on her shoulder, the same one that had always felt like Zuri's sign. Amani smiled, closed her eyes, and murmured, "Friends never truly die, they live on as light." At that moment, the sun began to set, yet the sky did not darken. Instead, a golden glow spread across the horizon. Children ran through the fields shouting, "Look, the sun didn't set today." And above Nayumba, the wind whispered softly, "The sun of friendship never sets."